Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
Okay, so we're playing Game On, right? Game On is our 1 month process where every week we take one aspect of our life and we focus on it. We focus on getting fit. So those of you that have been playing along know that the first area that we started with was physical. Then last week we went to mental, good, one person's got it. And you know what we're working on this week? Emotional. And then we finish up next week with spiritual. Great. Now, if you look at those four components or four aspects of you, if you were just to maybe make an assumption about everybody on the planet, and if you had to say which is the one that we resist the most, which would you vote for? Do you think most people resist the physical aspects of life? Not a lot of you are going for that one. The mental aspect of life? Nope. How about the emotional aspect of life? What about the spiritual aspect of life? So most of you are with me that think that most of the resistance is probably here and here, right? So these two are the areas that we tend to resist the most. And why is that? We had to deal with reality. Okay, right? Well, and these are the two areas that tend to hurt. Right? So mentally, does your mind ever really hurt? And then maybe you get a headache, right? But for most of us, thinking doesn't hurt us. Now, there's some of us that I know thinking does hurt us, right? Right? That we are mentally out of shape. We need to start pumping some iron. Like, we need to be thinking some tough thoughts and some more difficult thoughts than we usually think. But for most of us, the area where we get in the most resistance is when it comes to physically and emotionally. Like, these two are pretty non-physical, right? Mentally, you can go into all kinds of weird places. Right? And spiritually, you know, your spirit's always whole and complete, lacking in nothing. But physically and emotionally, that's where most of us have to do most of our work. This is where most of us have to spend most of our energy. So has it ever been hard for you to be in a body? Like, have you rather not been in a body? And if you could vote, would you rather not feel things? Right? So what I want you to see is these two look like they're the easiest. These two we know are not the easiest. Right? And that's where we're going to go tonight. We're going to talk about emotional fitness. And I want you to really play with that idea of what does it mean to you to be emotionally fit? Well, Richard, I don't want to be emotionally fit. I don't want to feel anything at all. I just want to run up into my head and think happy thoughts, and I don't want to feel a thing. And if I'm feeling a thing, I really think I'm doing it wrong, right? So this whole idea of being emotionally fit, I think is just hooey, right? I don't want to be emotionally fit. Right? So if you define what emotional fitness is for you, is it not having to feel? How many want to vote for emotional fitness is when you don't feel anything? It's complete freedom from your emotions. Okay, nobody's blaming that one. How about emotional fitness is that you never get upset or sad or have any kind of negative feeling, that's really emotional fitness. That if I can just keep myself in my happy place 24 hours a day, that is emotional fitness. Anybody want to vote for that one? So how about just stoic? You know what I mean by that? That emotional fitness is when nobody can tell that you're ever having a feeling. Like that you had the strong warrior face on all the time so nobody can tell. So that means that in corporate America, which one wins? Stoic. Bag it. Put it away. Nobody wants it. Put it in the drawer. Right? It was a tear, please. That's a sign of weakness, and you need to start over. You need to go march yourself out of the office and come back when you've got, what do we say? When you've got yourself together. Right? Because we don't want any of those emotions showing up around here. And yet, over and over again, what happens when we don't bring our emotions? We're not a complete person. So the best definition of I could find, because I looked, I Googled it. What is emotional fitness? And the Google knows, right? It's defined as the state where the individual is capable of staying away from negative thought. Right? Emotional fitness is if you cannot think a negative emotion or negative thought, that is emotional fitness, right? That's what Google says. That you'll be the most creative, the most constructive with your task if you can stay away from negative thought. Like we're trying to define emotion by talking about thought, right? I just want you to see that. That's how disconnected we are as a culture, that if I can stay in my mental happy place, I'm sure emotionally I'm fine, right? And then it goes on, it says, being emotionally fit is the key to success in all aspects of your life. So if you can just get more and more disconnected from yourself, it really is the key to being successful in every area of your life. And if you're not disconnected, we have a treatment plan for you. Right? Right? So what I want you to see is that we're all laughing about this, but this is the belief, this is the world belief on what emotional fitness is. Stay disconnected, keep it under lock and key, don't have a feeling. If you do have a feeling, God help you if you tell anybody about it. Right? You just keep that bad boy locked down. Now, can you see that maybe that isn't the best definition of emotional fitness? Right? That maybe it's not working so well for most of us. Do you know what percentage of people are on anti-anxiety medication? Lots. Right? And if you're on it, I'm glad you are, really. Right? But what I want you to see is, I really want us to have another way of being in the world. And the other way that I want you to be in the world is that it's 100% okay for you to feel. No, I don't want to feel. I know. Right? What if tonight you were willing to feel things that you haven't felt for a while? What if this became a safe place for you to actually have a feeling and give it to God? See, if you know what to do with your feelings, having a feeling is not really a problem. But when you feel overwhelmed or you don't know what to do with your feelings, what you want to do first and foremost is not feel. And we can actually do that for a while, right? But the problem is our soul has this capacity, and we can stuff a lot of things in our soul, but there's a point where our soul is baked, it's done, it's full, right? And then, when there's no place else to dump feelings, then they start oozing out. And they start oozing out sometimes in the places and the times where we don't think they should ooze out. Because, feelings are like kids. They're supposed to be seen and not heard. Right? That's the way we all raised our kids, right? Seen and not heard, man. Just go back to your place and you just be quiet. Right? And the problem is, the more our soul gets full, the more they're like, hello, I'm in here. So what if tonight your emotional fitness plan was different than maybe it's been for a while? Instead of giving me 20 jumping jacks or 20 sit-ups, or burpees or whatever the exercise is, what if every day you had to list the top 20 feelings that you're feeling that day and give them to God? What if every day you actually had to feel what it feels like to be you? Well, Richard, you can't be stoic and be blabbing at everybody about what you're feeling. I know, isn't that great? Right? How many of you have had a feeling this week that you literally did not want to have? Like, I want you to look around the room. Like, everybody's hands up, or most people. Leonard's hand's not up, but right? I want you to see, right, that most of us are having feelings that we don't want to have, and I want you to have them anyway, because the reality is that God is so pure. Infinite goodness is so pure that whatever you're feeling, so our emotions feelings. Yes, they're just energy, right? They're just, emotions are feelings, and they're all energy. So whatever feeling, whatever emotion, whatever energy you give to God, it is instantly purified and comes back as grace, right? Because sometimes life is hard. Is that true? Jesus said, in the world there's tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I've overcome the world. Not that it wasn't hard, but that he learned how to set himself free. He learned how to feel his feelings and give them to God. So most of you know, I shared last week that my puppy died, right? I have had so many feelings this week. For the last 2 weeks, right? I have had more inconvenient, unwanted feelings than I've had in a long time. And the feelings are so intense. Like it's a dog. I love that face. And I went for my first hike today without my dog. Oh my gosh. Oh, stab me now. Right? It's just so many feelings. And what happens over and over again, what tends to happen is that we feel like our feelings are so strong, we just put them away. But have you noticed that if you have a junk drawer, it rarely gets cleaned out, right? You just keep stuffing more junk in the junk drawer until have you ever had a junk drawer that you literally could not get it to open or close because there was so much junk in it, right? Now, would you want your soul to be like your junk drawer? No. Right? So one of the commitments I made when Sebastian passed 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, was that I was going to feel every feeling, no matter how intense it was, and as quickly as possible, I was going to give it to God. Because I didn't want to get stuck. I didn't want to get stuck. And I didn't want to bury any more feelings. I mean, everything in my life right now is about feeling it and letting it go. Because I don't want to die with old feelings that have been unresolved. Like, I don't want to go to the other side with unresolved issues. I want to be clean. I want to absolutely be totally, completely clean. I want to be in the moment. I want to be alive in every moment of every day so that I'm not stuck anywhere. So over and over again, what we have to do is feel it and let it go. Feel it and let it go. Will you say that with me? Feel it and let it go. Now, is your heart connected to the heart of God? Is your heart an instrument of the heart of God? So that your heart has this infinite capacity to feel. Huge. Your heart can be an infinitely large expression of God. So you feel it and you let it go and you never get stuck. Over and over and over again, feel it, let it go. Now, was there a time in your life, and it could be last week, where you felt the feeling was so much bigger than you were that there was no way you could allow yourself feel it? Anybody ever had that experience? Like it was just too big, too intense, too tough, too dark, whatever it was, right? And what I want you to see tonight is that you're a whole, complete spiritual being. That no matter what you're feeling today, no matter what you felt in the past, you can feel it and let it go. Well, Richard, I don't want to really touch it. Could you just touch it for me and give it to God? Because I don't really want to touch it, because it was kind of nasty the first time I felt it, right? I don't really want to feel it anymore. So I'm just want to kind of keep it buried here under the blanket, and let's pretend like we don't see it. Okay? How well is that working for you? Because what I want you to see is all that pain, all that sadness, all that grief. Do you know grief is the number one undiagnosed problem in the world today? How do I know that? I just know it's true. I just know it's true. That it's like, it's hard to watch the news. Is it hard to watch the news? It's hard to watch the news. It's hard to watch the news and not be in grief. It's hard to watch the news and know that we're doing that to each other. It's just hard. Right? And so what I want you to see tonight is that all the energy that you need to create anything you want in your life, you have 100% access to, but the chances are it's already being stored in old pain. Like, you know, does that make sense to everybody? So all that old pain that you're storing in your soul is literally the energy that you need to create the greatest life that you can imagine. But pain is not a very effective way to store energy, right? Because energy can't be destroyed. It just transforms form. So what you want is all the energy in your soul to be flowing. You want it to be available in a moment to create. I really believe that that's why Jesus could create miracles over and over again, one right after another, because all of his energy wasn't stocked and locked into the past. His energy was like fully present in every moment to create the thing in that moment that was the best thing for him to create. But for us to do that, the place where most of us are the most stuck is our emotions. So here's what I want. I think I've said it, but I'm going to make sure. You ready for your homework? We're already going to get to homework, right? The thing that I want you to do is I want you to feel what it feels like to be you. So, okay? I'm going to talk about 3 levels of feelings. Can you see that? Like, this is pretty clear. This is pretty clear, right? So we have happy feelings, we have sad feelings, and we have no clue what we're feeling. All right? Or we just have so much confusion about what we're feeling. And I'd like to suggest that this is kind of the breakdown for most of us. We consciously know our happy feelings. We don't know a whole lot of the feelings that we have stored in us. We just bag those away. And we know what are all our unhappy feelings. And to be spiritually fit means that this area is getting smaller and smaller. Like, physically, you can say, well, I can run a mile in 6 minutes, so that's the way I know I'm physically fit. Well, emotionally, you know that you're fit when you know what you're feeling. Have you ever had a feeling and it took you a week to figure out what the feeling was? Have you ever had an experience and then a week later you said, you know, I'm really mad about that? Well, you know, it might have been helpful to be mad about that a week ago when it was actually happening, right? So what I want you to see is when it comes to emotional fitness, that you're becoming more and more conscious, that you actually know what you're feeling. And it's not enough just to know what you're feeling, but you can actually say what you're feeling out loud to another child of God. I'm just feeling bad. Well, okay, you're not 5. Does that make sense? Like when you have little kids around, so for our little kids anyway, when our kids were little, we had a feelings chart. And they had a big chart in the hallway, and sometimes they couldn't identify what they were feeling because they were, you know, when one was 5, one was 3. And when they were, you know, you can do the math, 6 and 4 and 1. And so sometimes they would actually have to go to the chart and say, I'm feeling this, right? Because they didn't have the words yet to really express what they were feeling. They knew they were mad, but the idea was to kind of help them really identify what the real feeling was. Because have you ever just been mad but not really known why, or the deeper feeling underneath the mad was? And that's what I want. That's what it means to be emotionally fit, is that you can actually name the feeling that you're feeling at the time that you're feeling it. Wow! That's your homework. 10 minutes a day this week, I want you to feel what it feels like to be you. Name it. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm upset, I'm happy, I'm peaceful. I want you to name the feeling. Name the feeling. Now, can you name it to somebody else who loves you? Yes. Like, I'm feeling this, and this today. You know, pick the top 10 feelings that you're having today. Every day, pick the top 10 feelings. Have your best, your list of hits, right? And then I want you to, then once you name it, once you feel it, and once you name it, then what I want you to do is to, you know what I'm going to ask for? You know where I'm going? Give it to God. I want you to give it to God. Because do you really need to keep that feeling stored within your soul for another 20 years? How many of you have ever been able to grab a hot pan for over 30 seconds? Right? So what do you think the record is? Maybe a second? You grab something hot, like less than a second, and you let it go, right? Now, we think that we're wiser than our body. But I want you to see that your body is so smart that when it's in pain, it lets it go. Your emotions, you drag on for years. Like, you just drag on painful things over and over and over again. And being emotionally fit is that you know what you're feeling, you can use words to describe it, and then you give it to God. You don't hold on to it. Like, this is an area where we as a culture have not excelled. Because the way that we thought we were excelling emotionally is we just don't feel. Right? And in a masculine-driven or masculine-dominated culture, it's not surprising that the emotions were the part that we wanted to leave behind. But to move into a balanced culture where the masculine and the feminine stand side by side, guess where most of us have to do a lot more work to get fit? It's emotionally. We have to feel. We have to feel over and over again. Well, Richard, they're just endless. I know, isn't it great? Like, I don't want to feel that much. I know, but you wanted to be in the world. And you can't come into the world without feeling it. Because the whole reason you came into the world was to feel it. So feel it. And then give it to God. Don't get stuck. Feel it. How's it feel to be in the world? Well, sometimes it feels great. Sometimes it feels awful. Yes. Right now, this is the level of life that we've created. That sometimes it feels great and sometimes it feels awful. And the idea is that feel it all and give it to God. Feel it and release it together. Feel it and release it. Now, I did a meditation. Those of you that are on my weekly meditation that I sent out, I did a meditation this week, and the whole purpose of this meditation this week was the idea of letting go. Now, why is that important? I have this belief, and I think there's enough personal experience, that underneath every feeling is the ecstasy of God. Like, we're trying to get happy, and I'm going to do a whole series right after we get back from January, after the 4th of July. When we come back on July 11th, I'm going to do a 7-week series on happiness, right? Because I think that there is so much more room for us to be happier in every area of our life, just really happier. But what I also believe is that your soul, when you do your emotional work and you let it go, the ecstasy of God is always underneath. Like, a level of joy that is profound is underneath. That as you let go of one feeling after another feeling after another feeling, the ecstasy of God is underneath it all. But most of us never get there. In fact, in our culture, we have so few words for ecstasy because so few of us get there. You know, like there's a story that's told about in the Eskimos have so many different words for snow because there's so many different kinds of snow. Now in Arizona, that would really be pretty much useless information. You know, we can maybe talk about different words for heat, but hot is hot, right? Right? And in our culture, we have so few people that touch the ecstasy of God that we don't spend a lot of time there. We just say, oh, he's happy. And then we worry that maybe he's too happy. What I want you to see tonight, the more you feel what you're feeling and let it go, the more the ecstasy of God begins to bubble up. The more your soul begins to rise. And of all the areas in this whole program, the area that I want you to focus on this week, what I think is the most important, is that for you to get emotionally stronger. Because even if I use that word emotionally stronger, how do you hear that? Like emotionally stronger for most of us means, oh, I'm going to do a better job of not feeling. Right? That I'm going to get so emotionally strong that I never have to feel anything I don't want to feel. That I'm just going to be so strong that I'm going to control my heart so completely that not one feeling is going to get out of my heart unless I'm in charge of it. And really, I want you to go a different path. I want you to feel it and release it. Feel it and release it. And see if the ecstasy of God doesn't begin to just bubble up from within. Will you pray with me? And I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God that is right here. And that tonight we make a commitment as we approach the longest day of light to bring every feeling into the light. That every feeling gets brought into the light so that we can release it, so we can give it to God, so that we can set our soul free. And Holy Spirit, fill our soul with light, that we may feel every feeling so that we can release them. That no matter what the feeling is, help us to feel every feeling so that we can release it, so that we can transform all those old feelings into the infinite grace of God, so we can live and move in the grace of God, so that we can be wildly blessed. God, whether I like it or not, I feel things deeply. And I no longer need to work against myself. Help me feel it deeply that I might be transformed at depth. And so it is. Amen.